Get your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.
To open the Vendors page, click the Expenses link in the navigation bar and then click the Vendors link at the top of the page that opens to the right. At the top of the page is a money bar that shows the unbilled last 365 days, unpaid last 365 days, and paid items. Clicking any section in the money bar filters the vendor list to only show vendors with that type of transaction. You can click the Clear Filter View All link that appears above the money bar to remove the filter if you apply it. In the lower right corner of the money bar is a small arrow that you can click to collapse or expand the money bar. Below the money bar is the actual vendor list. In the upper left corner of this list is a Batch Actions dropdown. You can check the checkbox next to the names of vendors to email within the vendors list, and then click this button and select the email choice to batch email the selected vendors. To find a vendor, click into the Find a Vendor or Company field and then type the vendor's name. Then click the magnifying glass button to the right of the field or press the Enter key on your keyboard to show matching vendors within the vendor list. To show all the vendors again, delete your entry and then click the magnifying glass button again or press the Enter key on your keyboard. To sort the vendors list, click the Vendor Company column labels or the Open Balance column label to sort by the values you click. You can click the same link again to change the sort order if needed. The sort order, either ascending or descending, is shown by a small arrow pointing up or down next to the name of the label by which you are sorting the data. Also note that you can sort by either the vendor or the company name by clicking the desired label within that single column. In the upper right corner of the vendor list are three buttons for Print List, Export to Excel, and Settings. Clicking the Print List button opens a printer-friendly vendor list page and also opens your web browser's print dialog box. Clicking the Export to Excel button downloads the vendor list as an Excel workbook. Clicking the Settings button shows vendor list display options in a drop-down menu. Under the columns heading in the drop-down menu, you can check or uncheck the names of the columns to show or hide them in the list. Checking the Include Inactive checkbox under the other heading in the drop-down menu shows any inactive vendors within the list. Clicking the Rows drop-down in the drop-down menu shows another drop-down menu that lets you select the number of vendor rows to show per page within the list. By default, the vendor list shows the Vendor Company, Email, Open Balance, and Action column. The Action column contains a drop-down that lets you choose an action to perform. The choices are Create Bill, Make Payment after bills have been entered, Create Expense, Write Check, Create Purchase Order, and Make Inactive. Other than the Make Inactive choice, clicking each choice takes you to a page to perform the task. The Make Inactive choice opens a window that asks you to confirm the vendor inactivation. Click Yes to make it inactive, or click No to cancel it and close the window. In the lower right corner of the vendor list are the first, previous, next, and last links. You can click these links to navigate through multiple pages of the vendor list if needed. To edit a vendor, click the vendor's name to open a vendor detail page that shows a transaction list and vendor details tab. Either click the Vendor Details tab and then click the Edit button in the upper right corner of the tab, or click the Edit button in the top right-hand side of the page to open the vendor information window. Change the desired information here and then click the Save button. Note that clicking the Transaction List tab in the Vendor Detail page shows the vendor's transactions. While you cannot delete a vendor, QuickBooks Online Plus lets you inactivate vendors with a zero balance. One way to do this is to click the vendor to inactivate in the list to open the vendor detail page. Click the Edit button in the upper right corner of the page to open the vendor information window. Click the Make Inactive button at the bottom of this window. If the vendor has a zero balance, a pop-up box opens asking if you want to make this vendor inactive. Click the Yes button to confirm it. If the vendor has an open balance, a warning pop-up box appears asking to confirm that making this vendor inactive will cause an adjusting transaction to be created. Is this okay? If so, click Yes to make the vendor inactive and also create the adjusting transaction. To reactivate an inactive vendor, click the Settings button above the vendor list in the Vendors page. To display inactive vendors in the vendor list, check the Include Inactive checkbox. To reactivate an inactive vendor, then click the Make Inactive link in the Action column of that vendor record to reactivate it.
Like what you see? Pick up your free copy of the complete tutorial at www.teachucomp.com/free.